His face was plastered on every teen mag in the 90s, but you won't find Jonathan Taylor Thomas on your local newsstand these days. The former child star is notoriously private, but we've dug up some stats even the biggest Tiger Beat reader might not know. Jonathan Taylor Thomas's heritage includes German, Irish, French, and Portuguese. To sum himself up, the actor once joked to Bop magazine, "I am like Heinz 57. I mean, I'm a mix of everything." He went on to note that his Portuguese side accounted for his skin tone and ability to tan easily. However, on some productions, the ease with which he could get a tan became somewhat of an issue due to concerns regarding continuity. As he told the publication, "Directors don't like me going out in the sun too much, because then I get too dark. They film movies out of sequence, so if in one scene you have blonde hair and the next you have really dark, it's not going to match." The solution? Apparently, Thomas was asked to layer on the SPF whenever he was filming in a sunny location. Most kids probably don't spend too much time thinking about their long-term career plans, but from a young age, Thomas seemed to have a grasp on just how fleeting showbiz success can be. In a 1994 interview with the Los Angeles Times, the young actor, then just 13, was astute enough to speak about what he called child actor syndrome. The all-too-common phenomenon he alluded to occurs when young actors fade out of popularity as they age, but don't have a backup plan lined up. As he told the Times, "It's easy to get twisted around in this crazy business." Because Thomas was conscious of his career's potential expiration date, he never took his fame for granted and made an effort to have other options by keeping his grades up. Years later, it seems that Thomas's easygoing attitude towards fame paid off. In 2013, he spoke about his time in the spotlight, telling People magazine, "It was a great period in my life, but it doesn't define me." Back in 1996, a young Jonathan Taylor Thomas had big dreams for his future career. His number one idol at the time, he told Nickelodeon magazine, was Ron Howard. He said, "It's hard to be a kid in this business." He defied all the odds as a child actor and became a successful director. At the time, Howard, who rose to fame in the 50s and 60s as a child star, had just directed the Oscar-winning Tom Hanks film Apollo 13. The prolific filmmaker went on to produce and direct numerous films and TV series that have since been deemed as classics. Needless to say, Opie Taylor sure figured out how to transition from child star to Hollywood powerhouse. Thomas dreamed of following in Howard's footsteps and becoming an acclaimed director and producer in his own right. As he told the Los Angeles Times in 1994, "I think I want to write, direct, and basically do it all." As a child, Thomas was known not only for his passion for acting, but also his love of fishing. In fact, he spoke about fishing in numerous interviews, including one for TV Guide entitled "Jonathan Taylor Thomas Would Rather Be Fishing." According to his mother, Thomas showed an affinity for fishing from the young age of 4. The actor added, "I can't really put the rod and reel down. Everywhere I go, I carry my fishing rod." In another interview for Nickelodeon magazine, Thomas spoke about some of his best catches. His biggest was a 70-pound halibut he caught in Alaska. He also caught a 20-pound orange starfish there, saying, "This thing had 16 arms and it caught onto my hook. I threw it back. I throw most of my fish back." In 1996, while he was in between projects, Thomas even took 2 long fishing holidays in British Columbia. As a child, Thomas always seemed to be wise beyond his years. In interviews, he always came across as well-spoken and insightful. In 1995, a Los Angeles Times interviewer noted that when Thomas started talking about Hollywood, quote, "You'd swear he was 45. In another Los Angeles Times interview, his mother said, "He's definitely bright, but I think you have to be bright in this business to juggle everything, to keep things balanced." Even as Thomas's career continued to flourish, he made his education a priority.
Last year, I had a 4.0, but I worked very hard for it, and this year, we'll see, but I'm taking some really tough classes, and I want to go to a good college.
Well, when the home improvement star got a little older, he made good on his plan to attend a good college, and then some. Thomas's grades were good enough that he was able to go to 3 world-famous schools, Harvard, Columbia, and the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. As the actor told People, he loved every minute of it, especially because studying was so different from his life as a young actor. He said, "To sit in a big library amongst books and students, that was pretty cool. It was a novel experience for me." If you were a big Home Improvement fan, you might remember that there was a little bit of drama when Thomas left the show behind before the end of the 8th and final season, instead of seeing the show all the way through.
I leave on Saturday.
You can't leave Saturday?
Well, why not?
Well, because it's the day before the day of rest.
Apparently, his co-stars weren't too happy with how things ended. At the time, Tim Allen, who played his father on the show, confessed that he didn't understand Thomas's reasons for leaving the hit sitcom. Allen later told TV Guide that his comments about Thomas's departure were not well received. Thomas was apparently angry enough that he wasn't interested in coming back for the finale. As Allen explained, "He was a little miffed at me. I was a little confused at why he didn't want to do this whole year. I mentioned publicly that I was confused. I don't think he liked that." Fellow Home Improvement alum Patricia Richardson also spoke spoke up about her feelings about Thomas's refusal to appear in the finale, saying, "It's a pretty sore point around here. I think there were a lot of bad feelings all along. I don't think it's a good idea that he didn't show up, but I don't always think he gets the best advice." Because Jonathan Taylor Thomas hadn't had any public relationships despite his star status, rumors began swirling about his sexuality. Years later, it turned out that Thomas did actually have a girlfriend earlier in his career that he kept secret from the press. His ex, Danielle Fishel, the actor who starred in Boy Meets World, which filmed on the same lot as Home Improvement. Fishel spoke about Thomas to Elle in 2023, saying, "He was a celebrity at the time, but he was my first real-life Danielle crush."
After I already had the crush on Jonathan, and then, yes, Jonathan was my first boyfriend when I was like 12.
Although their relationship was probably nothing more than a few childhood dates, the pair seemed to have remained close. In 2013, Thomas was even spotted attending Fishel's wedding to her first husband, Tim Belusco. Thomas grew up dreaming of one day getting behind the camera, and in 2013, he made his directorial debut. The actor reunited with his old Home Improvement co-star Tim Allen for 4 episodes of the show Last Man Standing. But as it turns out, before he filmed his first episode of the sitcom, he had already spent some time on the set. As Allen told TV Guide, "Jonathan Taylor Thomas wanted to shadow our director, and that's what we did for a while, and then we pitched him to come on the show." JTT first played a restaurant owner named John, and then returned to the series as a character named Randy. Thomas not only got to appear on the show, but he also got the chance to put what he'd learned to use, directing 2 episodes in season 3 and 1 in season 5. He did not act in any of the episodes that he directed. You may not have known this, but Thomas was actually pretty good friends with Andrew Keegan, a fellow 90s star known for roles in Independence Day, 10 Things I Hate About You, and The Broken Hearts Club, a romantic comedy. The pair first met while Keegan was starring in Thunder Alley, which filmed on the same lot as Home Improvement. As Keegan revealed during an interview with BuzzFeed, their friendship even survived a relatively intense accident on the basketball court. According to Keegan, the pair often played basketball together in between takes.
Basketball is definitely a high priority on the set of Home Improvement.
However, one of these basketball sessions led to some dental drama for Keegan, who recalled, "We were between shoots and he hit my tooth and knocked my tooth out. Not out, but he killed the root. At the time I didn't know, and then it started changing colors and I had to get a root canal." Although Jonathan Taylor Thomas was once one of the most high-profile young stars around, in recent years, he's become much more reclusive and does his best to avoid the press altogether. His apparent disappearance from the public eye was noted by Amy Kaufman, a journalist at the Los Angeles Times, who set out on a mission to track him down in 2011. Kaufman noted that she reached out to Disney to ask for an interview with the star when a 3D version of The Lion King hit theaters, but was told that Thomas wasn't doing any press for the project. She also reached out to his agent, who also informed her that Thomas wasn't interested in participating. Thomas did later star in those episodes of Last Man Standing, after Kaufman's quest to track him down. But since then, he has once again retreated from the spotlight and is only seen out and about on rare occasions. Seems that after living out his childhood as an A-list celebrity, JTT has officially decided that private life is what he wants now. Since he leads a fiercely private life these days, no one really knows what Jonathan Taylor Thomas is up to. However, one thing we do know is that he has 2 very adorable dogs. The 2 pups have been spotted with the former child star on the few occasions when paparazzi have photographed him taking them for walks around his neighborhood in Hollywood. In June 2021, the actor was spotted walking the 2 small white pooches, both of whom appeared to be some kind of a poodle mix, while vaping and scrolling on his phone. It was the first time he'd been spotted in 8 years. Although this was the first time we had seen these 2 dogs, it was hardly the first time Thomas had been photographed with a pet. BuzzFeed noted that back in his heyday, he often participated in photo shoots with dogs. In a 1995 interview with Bop magazine, Thomas revealed that he had a Lhasa Apso dog named McCormick and 2 Himalayan cats called Samantha and Simba. If you idolized JTT as a tween, you might not have realized that he wasn't exactly a towering figure. He was, and still is, relatively short. As the Los Angeles Times wrote back in 1995 when Thomas was 14, at 4'11", the pixie-ish actor could pass for 10 or 11. In a 1996 feature for 16 magazine, his height was listed at 5'1", which made him shorter than Zachary Ty Bryan and Terrence Smith, both of whom played his brothers on Home Improvement at the time. But apparently, the 16-year-old wasn't too worried about his stature. He even told the magazine that he expected he'd have a growth spurt, just as his older brother did before him. Although Thomas continued to grow, that growth spurt never came. In fact, he apparently only made it to 5 feet 6 inches, which is just a few inches shorter than the average man.